In the last movie, we were looking at CSS Inspect, which has to be used when in the live view. In this case, we're going to turn off live view, and we're going to take a look at something else called the Code Navigator. Now, the Code Navigator will just appear randomly, and you've probably noticed this throughout the course. It's this little guy right here, which a lot of people find to be kind of annoying. It just pops up all the time. But if you click on it, it's giving you good information. It's telling you the rule that you're focused on, in this case, the H2 rule. And if you hover over it, you'll see all the assigned properties. If you take a look at the entire list, you're seeing the cascade of styles. So here we know that body, TD, and TH are also applied to this text. It just so happens that H2, because it was applied after the fact, will override the styles above it. But here, we're getting a much better sense as to what's happening with our styles. And if you want to modify it, you can. Simply click on it, and when you click on it, Dreamweaver does two things. It brings you to that exact rule within the code view, and the other thing that it does is select it over here in the CSS Designer. So if you like to work visually, you have that option. If you like to work with the code, you have that option. So how do you get rid of this little icon that appears all the time? Well, if you click on it, you'll notice that there's an option here to disable it. Now, it's kind of funny because I'm telling you to disable this feature that we're talking about, but you don't break it. It's not like it's not available. You just disable it from automatically appearing. Notice over here a keyboard shortcut. Here on the Mac, it's Command-Option-Click on a particular object to bring up the Code Navigator. On Windows, it would simply be an Alt-Click. But if you disable this, you can always reactivate it. Like I said, you just have to use that keyboard shortcut. So here on the Mac, it would be Command, Option, and then Click. On the Windows side, it's Alt-Click, and you'll notice that the Code Navigator reappears. Now, the Code Navigator becomes even more powerful when working inside of the live view. If you come over to the live view and turn on CSS Inspect, you'll notice that we can move over each element here within the document, getting an idea as to what properties are controlling the content. And when you're working inside of Inspect mode, you have even more control over the hierarchy of the content that you're currently activating. What do I mean by that? Well, right now I'm hovering over this paragraph, and we can see that the paragraph is inside this div element if you take a look at the tag inspector down here towards the bottom of the document window. Well, what if you want to get up to the div element? In this case, it's really easy. You just hover over it, but not all the time will you have that ability to simply hover over something. And if you're having difficulty getting to a particular element, you can use the left arrow key to essentially go up a level, or the right arrow key to move down a level. Once you find the element that you want to view, you can simply use those keyboard shortcuts. Here on the Mac, it's Command-Option and then Click to open up the Code Navigator. It's Alt-Click on Windows. Now we can see everything that exists within this particular area of the document. We can see that we have the body TD-TH rule, and then we have this desert ID selector. And as you hover over, you see all the properties that are applied to that. And if you want to go right to that particular rule, you can simply click on it. And again, it's going to bring you to that location within the code in the code view. And it's also going to highlight that here in the CSS Designer. So those two tools, Inspect mode and also the Code Navigator, give you an additional level of control that's really not available in many other HTML editing environments. And it's something that you're going to use all the time inside of Dreamweaver, especially when you start laying out content. Right now, we're simply controlling text with CSS. We're working with CSS at its most basic level. As we get more complex and start creating layouts with CSS, these two tools become even more important.